There is a ring in a toilet somewhere in your house right now that has survived every jug of bleach you ever poured on it. It fades for a week, maybe 2, then it comes back. Same spot, same height. Like it never left. So, the next time you scrub that bowl, do one thing for me first. Put on a rubber glove, reach down, and drag a fingertip across that ring. It catches. There's a little ridge under there, like a speed bump made of chalk. And the second you feel that catch, you know something the cleaning aisle never told you. That ring is not a stain. It is a mineral ledge, and bleach cannot dissolve a mineral. Today, I am going to take it off with 1 cup of a food-grade powder from the canning aisle, about $2 a treatment. Stick around to the end, because I will also tell you exactly why that ring always rebuilds at the same height, down to the 1/4 inch, and the one small habit that makes today the last time you ever scrub one. Ask anybody standing in the cleaning aisle what that ring is, and they will tell you it is a stain. Ask the label on the jug in their hand, and it will say the same thing. Whitens, brightens, removes stains. They have no idea what is actually bolted to that porcelain. So let me tell you what your fingertip just found. First, know that there are 2 different rings in this world, and they get treated in opposite ways. If yours is crusty, white, gray, tan, or rust-colored, and it catches under your finger, that is a mineral ring, and that is today's main event. If yours is pink or orange and it wipes into a slick smear, that is not mineral at all. That one is alive, and we will deal with it before we are done. The crusty one is where we start. Your water is not just water. It came up through rock, and it carried some of that rock along with it. Dissolves calcium mostly. The water folks call it hard water, and by their numbers, roughly 85% of American homes have it. Every time your toilet refills, a fresh load of dissolved rock comes in with it. And wherever that water sits still and touches air, a little of the rock gets left behind. It stacks up in thin layers and sets hard as a fingernail. That material has a name, calcium carbonate. Same mineral as chalk. Same mineral as limestone. You have a limestone ledge growing in your toilet, like a barnacle on a boat hull. And here is why it ruins everything around it. That ledge is rough. Under a magnifier, it looks like a gravel road. Every flush drags waste and tint across it, and the rough surface grabs some and holds it. Bacteria settle into the pits and stay. The ledge is the anchor point. The ugly color is just the flag flying on top of it. Now, the bleach. But the story you have heard about bleach and that ring? Not the full picture. Bleach is an oxidizer. In plain words, it is a chemical that tears apart the molecules that carry color. Pour it on the ring and the flag comes down. The brown fades. The bowl looks white. The limestone ledge underneath, never noticed because bleach cannot dissolve mineral. You paint it over rust. So the rough ledge sits there, grabbing fresh tint with every flush. And inside a week or 2, your flag is flying again at the exact same height. That is the cycle. That is why you have bought the same jug 11 times. You were bleaching the evidence and leaving the crime scene bolted to the china. The fix is a powder called citric acid. It is the sour in a lemon drop, concentrated into white crystals, food grade, sitting in the canning aisle because folks use it to preserve tomatoes. You can also order it online in bulk, and the money math matters here. A 5-pound bag runs around $23. A treatment is 1 cup, which weighs about half a pound. So out of the big bag, A treatment costs you a little over $2. The small 1-pound jars in the store run $8 to $10, which pushes a treatment to $4 or $5. By the bag, 5 pounds keeps for years in a dry cupboard and covers toilets, kettles, and shower heads. What does it actually do? Acid meets chalk. When citric acid touches calcium carbonate, it reacts. You will see it fizz a little, and that fizz is the ledge itself breaking apart. The reaction turns hard limestone into a compound called calcium citrate, which is a salt that dissolves in water and rinses down the drain. The ledge does not get whitened. It gets unmade. And citric acid is the working ingredient in the discoloration tablets people run through electric kettles and coffee machines. So industry already trusts it around drinking water hardware. And it is friendly stuff for a job like this. No fumes, which matters in a bathroom the size of a phone booth. It will not hurt the glassy fired coating on the porcelain, what the trade calls the glaze. It is fine for septic systems because it breaks down into carbon dioxide and water and does not wipe out the tank bacteria doing your dirty work. Still treat it with respect. It is an acid. Wear the gloves, keep it out of your eyes, and if you have marble or fancy stone tile on that floor, wipe up any splash because acid etches natural stone. One more rule, and this one is welded shut. Citric acid never gets mixed with bleach. Not in the bowl, not in a bucket, not the same afternoon. Hold that thought, because in a few minutes I will tell you exactly what happens when people break that rule, and it is worse than you think. Time to do the job. Look behind the toilet, low on the wall. There is a small oval handle on the pipe feeding the tank. That is the supply valve, and it is the homeowner's best friend. Turn it clockwise until it stops. You just cut the water. Now flush and hold the lever down. The tank empties, nothing refills, and the bowl drops way down. The ring is now exposed or barely covered. If a stubborn inch of water still laps at it, push some over the bin with the toilet brush or bail a cup into a bucket. You want that ledge in the air. Pour your 1 cup of citric acid slowly around the bowl so it coats the ring all the way around. Then wet it into a slurry with a splash of warm tap water. Warm, not boiling. Cold, china, and boiling water is how you crack a toilet. And cracking a bowl to save $2 means buying a whole new toilet. Let the wet powder cling to the ledge. Then close the lid and walk away. This is the part where patience does the work your arm never could. Give it several hours minimum. Overnight is better. And on a low-use bathroom, overnight costs you nothing. Come back in the morning, take a normal toilet brush, and make one easy pass. What was rock last night comes off like wet chalk in soft flakes. No grinding, no shoulder workout. Open the supply valve, let the tank fill, and flush twice. Look at that water line. Run the glove test again. Smooth. The ledge is not hiding under a coat of white. The ledge is gone. That fixes 1 page out of my book, 100 old house fixes that save you thousands. The whole book works that same muscle, knowing when a $2 treatment ends a problem, and when a cheap patch is just renting you time. The seasonal checklist inside keeps you ahead of what the house needs. Link is in the description, or scan the code on your screen. Enter the rim. The 1/4 inch of your toilet you have never once looked at. Take a hand mirror and a flashlight and angle them up under the rolled edge at the top of the bowl. 2 things live up there. The first is buildup on the underside of the rim itself. The second is the row of small jet holes that fire the flush water down the walls, and in hard water country those jets choke with the same limestone as your ring. Here is why you should care. When the jet scales shut, the flush comes out lazy. Weak swirl, poor rinse, sometimes a double flush to clear the bowl. I have stood in bathrooms where folks were pricing a new toilet over exactly that. And the toilet was fine. It was wearing a $2 problem. So mix a little citric powder with a few drops of water into a paste about like peanut butter. Work it onto the jet openings and the rim underside with an old toothbrush. For a heavy crust, soak a few paper towels in strong citric solution and press them up under the rim so they stick and leave them for an hour. Then peel them off and put them in the trash, not the flush. Paper towels do not break down like toilet paper, and I do not unclog toilets for free, not even yours. Brush, rinse, done. The next flush will spin like the day the toilet was new. For a minute now, you might figure you are finished. Bowl is white, jets are clear, glove test passes. And on most toilets you are. That does not always last, because some rings come back wearing a different color. If a few weeks later you see pink or orange creeping in at the waterline, you are not looking at mineral anymore. You are looking at a living thing. It is a bacterium called Serratia marcescens, and it is everywhere, in soil and dust, drifting in the air of a clean house. It drops into your bowl, and it eats. Soap film, shampoo residue, the traces of body oil that rinse off all of us. It loves water that sits still, which is why it blooms in the guest bathroom nobody uses, and in humid summer months with the windows shut. Do not panic about it. In an ordinary healthy household, this is a cleaning problem, not a medical one. It only gets serious in hospitals and around folks with weak immune systems. But acid is the wrong weapon for it. Killing a living film calls for a disinfectant. And this is the one place in this whole video where plain chlorine bleach earns its keep. In the bowl only. A cup, brush it around the line and under the rim. Let it sit 10 to 20 minutes. Flush. And now the warning I promised, so listen close, because this is the one paragraph in this video that is about your lungs and not your toilet. Bleach and acid must never meet. Not citric, not vinegar, not the acid bowl cleaners either. When chlorine bleach hits an acid, it releases chlorine gas. In plain terms, that is the same family of poison gas they used in the trenches 100 years ago, and you would be making it inside a room the size of a closet. People land in emergency rooms every year mixing cleaners, burning eyes, burning throat, lungs that seize up. So the law of my house is one product at a time. Do the acid work, finish it, flush twice with the water back on, and give it until tomorrow before any bleach touches that bowl. Fan on, window cracked. And somehow the bleach story gets worse, because the store will sell you those blue drop-in tablets that sit in the tank and bleach every flush automatically. Do not. Chlorine sitting in that tank around the clock chews up the rubber parts, and the first one to die is the flapper, the rubber seal at the bottom of the tank. A chewed flapper leaks silently, day and night, and a silent leak can flush hundreds of dollars of water in a year to save you a $5 rubber part. The tablet costs more than it cleans. Bleach visits the bowl. Bleach never lives in the tank. The clock on the next ring started the moment fresh water refilled that bowl. So let us talk about the small habits that keep you ahead of it. First and biggest, the monthly cup. Once a month, first of the month or whatever peg you will remember, drop a cup of citric in the bowl at bedtime and flush in the morning. No valve, no draining, no scrubbing. because you are not removing a ledge anymore. You are dissolving a film too young to harden. $2 a month. Call it $25 a year to never see the ring again. Give the low-use bathroom first claim on that habit, and in a few weeks you will spot a faint haze starting at the line, and you will know exactly what it is and exactly what erasing it costs. Second, air. Run the bath fan during showers and a while after. Crack a window when weather allows. Moving air dries the room, and a dry room starves the pink ring before it starts. Third, listen for a toilet that runs. A worn flapper or a misbehaving fill valve trickles water through the bowl all day, and that trickle drags fresh mineral past the water line around the clock while padding your water bill. 10-minute fix, few dollar part, and I have covered flappers on this channel before. Remember that fingertip test from the top of the video? It earns its keep one more time, because the morning after your first treatment, the glove tells you which of 4 roads you are on. Road 1, the ridge still catches. Scale that took 10 years to stack goes down like plywood, a layer at a time, and each layer that dissolved last night exposed the next one. Run the treatment again. Warm water. Full overnight. A bad ledge can take 2 or 3 rounds, and every round is $2. The ledge loses this fight every single time. It just does not always lose in one night. Road 2, the ridge is gone, but a shadow of stain remains. That is tint soaked into glaze, gone dull with age, and the honest tool is a pumice stone made for porcelain. A few dollars at the hardware store. Soaking wet, always, both the stone and the bowl. Then rub gently and the shadow lifts. Never dry, and never the green scouring pads or sandpaper, because scratched glaze is a gravel road, and a gravel road grips the next ring twice as fast. Half the worst repeat ring toilets I have ever serviced was scrubbed into that condition by their owners. Road 3, the ring keeps returning rusty orange at the line. That is iron in your water, common on wells. Citric still works, and it earns a fancy word here. Chelation, which just means the acid grabs metal and carries it down the drain. Expect repeat treatments and read the wider signs. Crust in the kettle, spots on the shower glass, this ring. That is the whole house telling you the water is hard everywhere, and the permanent fix is a water softener, which is a bigger conversation for another video. Road 4, the ring sits lower than it used to, or the bowl looks half empty. That is not a ring problem at all. That is the fill valve set low or a flapper bleeding down, and now you know where to look. But this stops being about one bathroom, because the dollars around this little ring get genuinely stupid. Swapping a standard toilet in 2026 runs $300 to $800 installed, and most invoices land in the $400 to $700 stretch once Labor and Holloway hit the ticket. That is not a typo, and people sign those invoices over staining, over a cosmetic ledge that dissolves overnight for the price of a coffee. And that is still not the part that costs people the most, because the slow bleed is the cleaner aisle itself. The specialty bottles that actually work on mineral rings are acids too, $5 to $8 a bottle. And read the fine print sometime, because the label on the leading one calls for at least 4 ounces per application. That is 4 treatments a bottle, sold to you again and again. The bleach-based jugs are cheaper and chemically cannot do this job at all. Now, nobody in that aisle is lying to you exactly. The acid bottles do work. But understand the plain economics of the shelf. A 5-pound bag that costs $23 and lasts 2 years has no room in it for anybody's advertising budget. There is no money in prevention, so nobody gets paid to walk you 2 aisles over to the canning section. That is not a cover-up. That is just how a shelf gets stocked. Which brings us to the real question I owe you from the start of this video. Why does the ring always come back at the exact same height, down to the 1/4 inch? Look at the bowl after any flush. The fill valve stops the refill at the same level every single time. That is the line where water meets air. And between flushes, that surface quietly evaporates. Here is the mechanic nobody explains. Water evaporates. Rock cannot. So every hour that bowl sits, the dissolved calcium gets left behind, exactly at the surface, the way a drought paints a white tide line around a shrinking lake. Your ring is a tide line. It marks the water level because it is made by the water level, deposited a whisper at a time, right where air touches water. And that explains the last mystery too, why the guest bathroom always rings worst. More sitting, more evaporating, fewer flushes to stir the pot. The lonely toilet builds the ledge fastest. So now the word forever in my title, straight and honest. The overnight treatment unmade the ledge that took years to build. The monthly cup dissolves each new month of film while it is still soft. Do that, and the ring is not being cleaned over and over. The ring is never getting born. Forever is not magic. Forever is a standing appointment. 1 cup, $2, first of the month. As of tonight, that ledge is either still sitting in your bowl, or it is 1 closed valve and 1 cup of powder away from gone. The hard water is not going to quit. It will send fresh rock down that line every month from now on. And every month, for pocket change, it can lose. If you want the whole playbook, my book, 100 Old House Fixes That Save You. Thousands shows you how to catch small leaks before they take out a floor or a ceiling. And it hands you the questions that keep a contractor honest on a bid. Grab it through the link in the description or scan the code on the screen. And if straight talk belongs in your week, subscribe to Roger the Pipe Guy for more old house fixes that keep your money in your pocket. I am Roger. Now go run that glove test.